Have you ever pondered the Ascension vehicle? This grand Merkaba, the star tetrahedron, this amazing thing that's going to help you ascend. Well, let me tell you, it's an epic fail. It is untrue. How else can I say this? Something that's been taught for millennia that even the teachers aren't ascending, and certainly their students aren't, because people that I've seen that go through Drunvalo Melchizedek's class and some of these other people that are teaching this, they're still here. So what's up with that? Well, when you look at it and break it down, the star tetrahedron is masculine. You can't birth into a new dimensional aspect, a new level of consciousness through the masculine. And now they'll say, well, it twists. There's two things coming together, and that creates the essence of the feminine. No, it doesn't. And if anybody that wants to believe that, what's the old saying about selling a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge or something? Anyway, point being is, it's not true. The Merkaba is masculine. Anytime you see straight lines, it is masculine. There is no feminine aspect. So these interlocking, spinning tetrahedrons are not feminine. And then people go like, well, Joe, what about the flower of life? You got all these circles and things that go around. Well, that's still not feminine, because what they're doing is creating geometric structures around this shape to create this effect of what they want. And again, it is still not the sacred feminine. What I'm going to disclose to you or share with you here shortly, Trutharians, is the fact that this is the sacred feminine geometry is something that has never been shared, at least as far as I can see. I've never seen anyone teach what I'm about to share with you. So spin rate, all of this does not equate to sacred femininity. Straight lines, so you cannot birth this. Remember, ascension, and I don't even know if anybody's ever really spoken about ascension like this, because evolution is really going and birthing into a new area, but so is ascension. If you're going to ascend into the heavens, you're being birthed. You are being brought through a birth canal, if you will, to become something greater and better. And the only way you can be birthed into something greater and better is by being of service to those which you can serve, you can benefit, you can, and this is really service to all versus service to self. And if you're those people that are teaching, let's say, law of attraction, that's service to self. They're really not going to go through this process. They go through another process, which I'll go into in a different video. But anyone that's focused on the material, that's focused on greed, money, this or that, they're really not focused on, or they're really not going to benefit from this. And there are a lot of Me Too teachers out there that have seen this and are jumping on the bandwagon. Well, I can teach this ascension vehicle. Well, not so much. And again, there's Drunvalo Melchizedek, and people don't even really understand what the word Melchizedek means. It is the Melchizedeks are the first priest of God. They represent God. And so when you're teaching a false truth, you're not representing God. And then I've seen other people out there calling themselves Melchizedeks. And let me tell you, they're not Melchizedeks. They've got some interesting things that they're saying, but it's not godly, and it's not going to advance you from a perspective of blossoming and attuning to a higher level. So let's kind of jump back into this, because when we look at even the flower of life, the egg of life, the fruit of life, these are all kind of bolt-ons, if you will, to the Merkaba. And it's, again, an epic fail, because this is the core of what they're talking about with regards to the ascension process and how we control, again, this spin rate, which is absolute nonsense, because you can't do that with the conscious mind. Even this Nassim Harriman, who I've got great respect for, he's got this incredible model of 64 tetrahedrons, which is not really a birthing, but it's a construction. It is in every single one of these 64 tetrahedrons, which he calls the framework, the structure of the universe. I mean, like I said, he's a genius. But he does not take into consideration the sacred feminine geometry, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment. Because the 64 tetrahedron cannot function. There is no birthing of it in order to create. Again, there's a difference because the feminine is about love and the masculine is about war. And this is, and I say war, it's different. You've got the yin and the yang. So when I talk about the sacred feminine, that is where we are entering right now with the Great Awakening. We are bringing this unselfish love, this God force, this wellspring of God within us to this realm. And this really goes back into triality, which I talked about in an earlier episode, because we're now leaving duality. And this is the age of Aquarius, and this duality is now becoming triality because we're introducing spirit, or God, if you will, into this mix, and we are evolving. And this is exactly what's going to activate this ascension vehicle, the missing part. So when we look at the conception of how this has been formulated over the millennia and drawn, most people see this as a two-dimensional construct. Now, I see this three-dimensional, four-dimensional, and kind of beyond because that's the way my mind works since I fell and had the near-death experience. But when most people look at this, they see the conception, and then this is kind of how the evolution of the seed of life, fruit of life evolves. And again, it's two-dimensional. When I see this, and again, this is something that I learned several years ago that Spirit showed me, but I didn't really have a frame of reference in which to present it. And because of the Great Awakening now, and the entering of the God force within us, the expansion is blossoming and blooming, the attunement to these greater levels, this now is so very important to understand. Because again, the sacred masculine needs to be balanced with the sacred feminine. And this sacred feminine geometry has never really been taught before. Yes, people have taught the masculine aspects of geometry, but not sacred feminine geometry. Nobody's even talked about this particular shape, three-dimensional shape, which I am going to talk about and share with you in just a minute. So when I see this evolving, I don't see it evolving two-dimensionally. I see it evolving two-dimensionally. And again, as I talked about earlier with triality, this is earth, heaven, and then we've got this, which is the Vesica Pisces, which people have talked about. But what they have failed to consider is instead of it evolving like this, it actually evolves like this. So what is that, Joe? You're still drawing in a two-dimensional aspect. So let's look at, instead of like circles, we're looking at spheres. So we're looking, and I've talked about the perfection of spheres with the pi, phi, pi teachings that I shared with you over the last few episodes. So a sphere is perfection. So when you have a perfection, and now you've moved into a new perfection, that really creates that Vesica Pisces. And yet now when you move and create that third perfect sphere, you've actually created 2 points in time and space. Now, why is that important? Because this creates what's called a mandala. This mandala, if I can get it pronounced correctly, is what you see in many of the ancient churches and ancient teachings, not only Christian teachings, but other teachings, which is the almond shape with the Messiah-type figure, Christ figure, coming through it. This is the birth canal. This is the yoni. This is a lens, if you will, into the greater expression. As I talked about being a soul, this body, this consciousness is a lens for us to perceive. And so as we step into the mandala and evolve through this, this is the lens in which we see. Now, this is really where it gets fun and interesting. This is where it becomes sacred feminine geometry. Because while here we still have 2 points in time-space, remember here we combined 3 perfect spheres. So these 3 perfect spheres, now in addition to the Vesica Pisces, we now have a backside. So now we've got 1, 2, and 3. This means that this is sacred feminine geometry. It is the first sacred geometry that is formed out of all things. It has to be. This is, again, the birth canal for all things, for things coming into time and space. It has 2 points versus masculine geometry, which if you have a simple triangle, you'll see it has 3 points. To give any type of dimensionality to the masculine geometry, you need to add a 4th point. So now you've got the depth, if you will. With this, with sacred feminine geometry, you now have 2 points in time, space, and depth, which is crazy exciting to me. So this is triality. This is heaven, earth, and spirit coming together to birth a new realm, a new dimensionality, a new heaven on earth. This is what you and I have been working towards, being service to all. And this is so exciting because these curved lines is sacred femininity. This is sacred feminine geometry. No one else has talked about this, not that I am aware of. They talk about this in the star tetrahedron, but you cannot birth, again, a new level of consciousness with sacred masculine geometry. It's impossible. You just can't do it. And why did they do the star tetrahedron? Well, to deceive you, to take away your power. They want to steal your ability to see and nurture what is within you. They want us to be warlike, if you will, and be masculine and forego this sacred femininity that is within us. And yes, gentlemen, there is sacred femininity within you as well. So, Joe, what exactly is the sacred feminine? Glad you asked. Sacred femininity is the Godforce, is this unselfish love that you and I have to give and share to all beings. It is this blossoming of love that we have. This yoni is within us. And as you can see here, this is the birthing of the Godforce. And then as this Godforce bursts, we begin the beginning of the Merkaba, the star tetrahedron, within our yoni, within the heart space, the seat of the soul. This is the eternal wellspring of God here on earth. And now we are opening up the reservoir, the ability to ascend into the depths. And one of the things that I've shared before, which ascend into the depths sounds somewhat counterintuitive, but once you realize that the deeper you dig the well, the cleaner and purer the water is, the more minerals, the more it will nourish you. So as we dive deeper into service to all, with this unselfish love, we now begin to birth. Again, birth. It's not ascend. I mean, you have to birth in order to ascend. So you're birthing the Merkaba, and now you've become full force. And you've got these 2 points in time and space for the sacred feminine that has birthed the masculine. You have to have the sacred feminine geometry before you can birth masculine geometry, period. It doesn't matter. So, and I know I drew this in 2 dimensions, but there's but use this amazing creative force within your holographic brain to picture this in a 3-dimensional aspect. And then Maybe we'll play with 4 and 5 dimensions a little bit later on. But right now, this is the birthing. And then, of course, this is really where it gets fun. And I'm not going to go into detail right now, but this also is the birthing of the toroidal field, the toroidal blueprint for who we are. And so the sacred feminine is 2-point geometry. Sacred masculine, to have depth, is 4-point geometry. You have to have the sacred feminine before you birth the sacred masculine. And again, being service to all. And this is one of the other really cool things, is that where you've got the star tetrahedron here, which is a forced or contrived spin rate. Drunvalo talks about it being a certain spin rate on top, certain spin rate on the bottom. The spin rate is determined, it is conducted, regulated by the amount of love that we are able to put forth and share with this amazing eminence of the Godforce. Remember, you are the light of the light. And this amazing light is purifying not only the darkness, but we are purifying the light here on earth. So we're becoming more than we can ever imagine. And this is the time of the Great Awakening. This is the time to be evangelical about what we are saying. And evangelical doesn't mean like crazy person, but it means that we are having a greater expression of love of the God within us to all people. And it is amazing, as I walk around, I have just these amazing encounters with people that are coming up to me and talking to me about just really cool stuff, and they're so kind, and just this is random. And I personally believe, actually I know, it's because I am just focusing so much on love that it is bringing forth this wellspring, and people are reacting to this field of immense love that I am projecting. And this is something that we all have, because we are all holding the line right now as this great convergence, this harmonic convergence happens, because when we look at all of this, and by the way, one of the things that I do want to share, which is kind of interesting, because people talk about a light body, talk about a plasma body, talk about a crystalline structure. Well, what do all of these bodies, including the physical body, the etheric body, what do all of these bodies have in common? Well, each one has a harmonic. Each one is based on a harmonic. Whether you're a light body, an etheric body, cymatic, I can kind of go through the entire list. But the important thing to realize is that everything is based on your specific harmonic. This is why it's harmonic evolution. Because whether you're a light body or whatever, just like in a light bulb, I can actually, with a dimmer switch, you can actually have like a really dim light, or you can have like a really bright light. And each of you evolutionaries is a brilliant light. And I love the fact that you're able to tune in and attune to these higher messages of understanding around the things, the crazy things, these evolutionary things that I get a chance to share with you. And by the way, I love you so much. You guys are just amazing, carrying this torch forth to illuminate the darkness and bring greater light into the light. So again, the sacred feminine geometry has its own natural spin. This has been hidden from us for millennia. You know, this doesn't spin on its own. It is a forced or contrived spin. If you look or tried to spin this on its own, it would fall. This is perfectly balanced between heaven and earth. This is what the ancient teachings show us to be true and real. The thing that I am sharing with you now is that where the mandala, this almond, this yoni that is the birthing, is depicted, but it's depicted in 2 dimensions. What I am sharing, and the thing that has never been taught before, is the third aspect, this dimensionality of spirit coming in to create triality. And this triality creates a portal. This is a fractalization of spirit, of this new realm that is entering, and you and I are part of this birthing process. And this is so very exciting to understand how important the sacred feminine geometry is. So sacred feminine geometry is, again, unselfish love. It is like a mother birthing their child. No greater gift can we have than the unselfish love of the mother birthing their child. What an incredible gift. This is what we are doing now. We are birthing a new era of love, of unselfish love, of a godly love that has not been seen on this earth in millennia. And again, you have to have this. You have to have sacred feminine geometry. You've got to have the birthing in order for the masculine to work. So all these other teachers epically fail. They just, whether they were hired by someone to give mis or disinformation, or whether they're just completely unaware and they were just following everybody else on the bandwagon. The important thing to realize is that the sacred feminine geometry is the key. This is the key to all things. This is the birthing of love. This is the birthing of ascension. This is the birthing of our evolution, because what comes out of this magnificent yoni is the love for all, and whether you're man, woman, whatever. This is where we are, and it's so exciting to be a part of this and be able to share this with you. This is truly something that has been hidden for millennia. So with that, I love you. Let me know if you have any questions. This is something that I have been so excited to share with you, just because I know that you'll take this and take it and carry the torch forward to, again, illuminate the dark and bring a greater light into the light, being the light of the light. So again, let me know if you have any questions. Like the video if you like it, and then, just share it, because this is so important for people to get their heads wrapped around, is to be birthing this unselfish love, this service to all, in order to help everyone create this gigantic wave of love, as we are this anchor point, this point of birthing for the world and bringing this new love to the world. I'm Joe Heller. I love you. Bye-bye.